At our South Florida anchor desk, Robert Rabil, professor of Middle East Studies at Florida Atlantic University. Robert, we thank you for being here. And also, we are joined via Skype overseas by Armen Georgian, who is a journalist for the international news network France 24. Armen, you had a chance to listen to our reportage on what is going on. Mindful of these new developments, what, sir, do you have to add for us in the intervening moments when we've been away from you?
Well, we've heard that security has been stepped up at key places such as tourist sites, the subway system, and increase police presence at museums. Of course, where I am, Paris is the most visited city in the world, the most popular with tourists. And we're also hearing that President François Hollande is going to be addressing the French nation at 8 p.m. Paris time this evening. I understand that he's going to be calling, among other things, for people not to exploit this act to make sure that there isn't a blowback against the Muslim community in France, which is actually the largest in Europe, in proportion to the overall population. So given that there is this very tense history between the Muslim minority and the majority, which periodically flares up when things get difficult on the Israeli-Palestinian issue, I think he'll be calling on everyone to tread very carefully. We've already heard Muslim leaders in France saying that this has nothing to do with us. These people are quite simply terrorists. This has nothing to do with Islam. So I think everyone is already moving to try to preempt those kind of tensions from perhaps spiking, particularly in the suburbs of French cities.
We appreciate that, Armen Georgian. We'd ask you to stand by from your vantage point there in Paris. Let's bring it back across the Atlantic to the here and now in the United States. And Dr. Rabil is a Middle East expert.
Yes.
I don't know, I'm struck by the report we just got from Armen that
Yes.
the French president feels it necessary to call for restraint against Islamic immigrants to France. This is a difficult situation.
Yes.
Does that strike you as perhaps a step back into being politically correct, or do you believe that's a practical move by the French president?
Well, by the French president, it is a practical move because he has now 9% of the population are Muslims. And he knows that not all Muslims are radical, but also he has to take into consideration some new facts that really were aired on bluntly by Chancellor Merkel 2 years ago when she said the policy that Europe has followed toward the Muslim population of multiculturalism has failed. And now the policy should be pursued is assimilation, period. So this is where mainly the French president and all presidents and leaders of Europe should follow a policy. Yes, you are resident here, you are citizen of Europe, but you have to be assimilated in Europe. And there is a big difference between that policy of multiculturalism and assimilation.
And indeed, we had General Michael Hayden talk about one of the futures that we could see in Europe essentially being Eurostan, a failure to assimilate. The French have historically had pride in their culture, their
Yes.
own ethnicity, if you will.
Yes.
Can they bridge the gap with the Islamic immigrants?
Well, they can, but they have to take a stand on their Republican ideal. Let's not forget, it was the French Revolution. It was the French Revolution that go back, that separated the church and state. And they have a concept called laïcité. Laïcité mainly for us here, it's secularism. And this is what they should stand for. If you believe in your ideal, stand for it. And this is where I mention assimilation. You have to pursue certain policy where you cannot say, well, we are to be lenient with some people on account of their sensitivities. We cannot do that anymore.
Fair enough. We'll have to leave it right there as time is upon us. To Armen Georgian, we thank you for your time from Paris. To Robert Rabil, stay with us. You stay with us too here on America's Forum.